Welcome to the So Far So Rare podcast. This week I spoke with Plastician, aka Stish. He was on about 7 months ago. We talked about all the changes that have happened at that time, whether or not he's happy. There's the new MLS cards. There's a few things happening in the space. I'm going stateside, and he has a new podcast which we talked about. I hope you enjoy the episode. Plastician, you're back for the second time on the podcast. It's been 7 months since we last spoke. How have you been?
I've been good. I've been busy, back in the swing of gigging again, and yeah, it's been quite nice. Been enjoying SoRare. I've been getting pretty deep into it. I'd say quite a lot deeper than I was maybe 7 months ago, which is hard to believe, but here we are. It's good to be back.
Yeah, I'm having a
Good
look
to
at your gallery there. You have a couple of beautiful super rares.
Yeah, I've acquired a few more. I picked up my first unique, I think, since we last spoke. Yeah, I need to consolidate a little bit my gallery, but overall quite happy with where it is at the moment.
You
Got rid
have
of
a
a few cards
unique.
this week.
You have a
Yep.
super rare Jesus Ferreira. You've got
hmm
all sorts of stuff going on in this gallery. But look, a lot of people mightn't have listened back when the podcast started. You were obviously around in the early days. You've been on SoRare since the 11th of November 2020, so about a year and a half. Do you want to just give people a quick rundown of roughly where you're at in terms of your gallery? Obviously, you've dropped you a unique. There's a few nice super rares and stuff there. We'll not go on about it forever because a lot of people already know you, but let people who don't know you know where your biases may lie and roughly where you're at.
Yeah, so I mostly tend to go for U23. Is always like a big lean for me. So I don't tend to worry too much about what leagues they're playing in. I just like players that score good all around, play often, and hopefully if they've got that U23 utility, then that always kind of ticks an extra box for me. I'd say that most of my gallery is probably leaning more towards Challenger. I've got quite a few Champ Euro cards, but I don't tend to pick them out when I'm looking for cards. It's more, I find like the Challenger suits the good cards in my gallery are a little bit more like on the Challenger end. So if I'm looking to buy cards or strengthen, it tends to be there that I'm looking. So yeah, I'd say like U23 Challenger. I definitely follow a few sides in Asia as well. And then most of that's just come from picking up cards in SoRare and taking an interest. So I find myself watching quite a bit of Korean football. Even today, I was sat watching FC Seoul in the Korean FA Cup to make sure that Lee Han-bom, who is my one and only unique, he limped off the last time I watched him, and I was worried he got a serious injury. So to see him playing today in the FA Cup, that was nice.
A nice sigh of relief, anyway.
Yeah,
I'm looking there at your gallery. You've won some banging under 23s over the last sort of 7 months since we last spoke, even 8 months, 9 months, 10
yeah.
months. You've won some crackers in your time. Chiesa, Castellanos. Who did you see that filthy clip of him the other day where he did the nutmeg and then the Rabona thing? If you
I
haven't seen it, I
didn't
need to
see
send
that.
it to you.
I was
I sent you.
watching him the other week when they absolutely thrashed. Can't even remember who they played now. It was 6-0, and he was all over it. He was just having the game of his life, which was good to see. He's like, I've got so many injuries at the minute, so when you've got a couple of good players like hitting a hot streak, that really helps. Especially my forwards. You know, like you mentioned Chiesa there. I've missed him a lot. You know, by the time he comes back, he's not going to have that U23, so that's a bit gutting. But
You've like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm even looking there like Darwin, Tamori, you've won. You've bought a load of others. Paqueta, Gvardiol was a recent win, huge.
yeah.
You've been winning your stars and your tier ones, and that's something I'm missing. So I maybe need to look at what you're doing because I like to think I have a nice under 23 gallery, and I'm just not hitting stars. Even tier ones are few and far between, but hopefully
I
fortunes
think I
turn
was
around.
I think I was quite fortunate as well, because I think that when I did pick up that Gvardiol, I think that came up as a tier one and not in. It wasn't in the star pool, if I
Oof.
remember rightly.
Yeah,
That
that's a bit of
I
luck
might have
there.
got very lucky there, yeah. But I have had a bit of. I hit a tier one last weekend, and I picked up like a Nene Dorgeles, who I looked up. I didn't know anything about him, but he's on loan from Salzburg. He looks okay. He doesn't look amazing. I'm not sure if he's gonna like go back to Salzburg this season and end up starting for them next year or not. I think that would depend massively on how many forwards they lose. You know, if they get rid of Sesko and
Yeah.
Adeyemi, then maybe he'll get a look in there next season.
And he
But
was a tier 1.
he was, yeah, it was a really unusual. I finished 11th, so I was expecting big things. I was in the tier 1 pool, and I got that. I was like, really? Like,
I feel like it is the natural segue now, but I don't maybe want to start on the Professor Techers rant. When I call it a rant, I think it's fair. We'll maybe come back around to that rewards valuation system, but like that seems off. It
yeah, I
does.
looked at it and I thought, you know, like it. You know, you see people on Twitter like Techers and the likes on there that like to have a like proper deep look at the rewards. And when
Yeah.
I got that one, I was like, these guys would absolutely tear up Twitter if they had that in their tier 1 pool.
Yeah.
I was looking at the cards I could have won, and I was getting really excited. I was like, I was really hoping for like maybe like an America's tier 1, something that I can use through the summer. I'm a little bit light on like American defenders. Was hoping I might get one of those, and then I picked that up, and I was like, wow, I don't even know who that is. Like I didn't even see him in the tier 1 pool.
Yeah.
It was really unusual, but it is what it is. I had I won a tier 2 limited this week, and I got Akjun. He is on loan, I believe, from
Action, yeah, Eunice Action.
he's a great
Turkey.
player. So to
He
pull
scored a
that
couple.
card, yeah, I've watched him a couple of times as well because I've got Muric who plays in goal for Demirspor, and he caught my eye when I was watching that game. I thought he looks quite lively, and I looked him up, and he was really pricey. So to win that kind of like, unfortunately, it is just a limited, but I'll take it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, the first question I want to throw at you coming out of the blocks is I just kind of want to ask you. I mean, it's been 7 months since we spoke. A lot has happened in 7 months. Or some might look at it and say not a lot has happened in 7 months. I want to see just where you lie. Are you happy with the progress over that time? I know it's a bit wishy-washy of a question because trying to remember all the milestones and things that have or haven't happened, and even the sentiment at the time 7 months ago, it's hard to kind of judge maybe for you. But like, I'll ask you the question: are you happy with the last 7 months? And as for
Yeah,
SoRare as a platform, not personally
I,
necessarily.
I think, yeah, like on the whole, I'm still enjoying it a lot. There are a lot of problems, you know, like that people are pointing out, and we can see those problems are there. But on the whole, I think as a product, it's great. It's made some big leaps. It's onboarded a few entire divisions, you know, like trying to think, but I feel like the Bundesliga and La Liga might have happened since that, right? I can't remember exactly when those came on, but the SPFL coming on recently was a nice one to see. And I think, like, for me, the more like entire divisions that they onboard, the better. You know, I think everyone's waiting to see if the Premier League's going to land, and I think that'd be great. But also, it wouldn't kill the platform for me personally if they didn't get it. I know a lot of people are really hoping for it, but I think the only thing that excites me about that is it might break up some of those Blackpool stacks a little bit. The Liverpool stacks that you know, I think like Mark YNWA will probably be he'll be hoping, you know, the longer the Premier League takes, the longer those big Liverpool stacks can like absolutely tear up the reward pools. So yeah, I think I'm hoping maybe a bit more supply around some of those big like unicorn cards that are on the platform from Liverpool, and you know the odd Declan Rice that's floating about. But I think, yeah, in general, I still feel pretty confident that they will probably get that license in time for next season's cards to be minted. And if they don't, I don't think it's the end of the world either. I'm sure that they'll get it eventually if and when. But you know, like even things like the Austrian league, the Scottish league, I'd love to see the championship. Like there's a lot of great young talent, a lot of players go out on loan in the Championship. They come up. It's, for me, I think like there's been solid growth. I still enjoy the game. I think they've made some good tweaks. I enjoyed the introduction recently of like the specialist. I like the specialist and the underdog. I think that's good. I think that was a good
Mm.
addition. But yeah, I think like if there are obviously these problems with the reward pools that have been pointed out by people like Techers, and you can't really argue that much with the points he's raising. I think that he raises good points, and yeah, there's no reason in my head why they can't start working towards that. But I do think that maybe during all this expansion and everything that's going on, maybe they're just all hands on deck to like on board and expand like their coverage as
Yeah.
much as possible. And so like maybe while they're trying desperately to get everything locked in, while everyone else is clambering for these NFT licenses from leagues and clubs and players,
Yeah.
they're just like, let's get this done, then we can figure out tightening up the gameplay and the rewards. And
Mm.
that's what I'm assuming. But only time will tell. Hopefully it'll all come good.
Yeah, because I think that's something that's important actually, and something maybe we don't give them enough credit for. Securing licenses early is important. Because I mean, even looking out there, like we like to think that it's almost unrivaled, and I mean, I honestly think I think it'll be very hard for anyone to rival them unless they just come in with they're a huge company already and they come in with hundreds of millions. But you look at the likes of Ultimate Champions, for example. You've mentioned the Championship. I know they've got a handful, or I don't even know how many clubs from there. It's not a project I've followed, but I know they've got licenses from there. I know they have. Do they have the Rangers one, or is it someone else? I think it's
I
someone
think
else. But they
uh,
had
yeah.
they had Scottish football ones, but they obviously didn't have exclusivity. And I know did they say something about, does it get Reims or
Oh
some
yeah, the
French club?
French club. Yeah.
But maybe they aren't all exclusive, so maybe it's not the end of the world. But maybe it is something we overlook, that while SoRare are hiring, maybe it is important for the project long term with their vision of the top 20 leagues, and it's been sort of thrown out there. I hope with something to back it up by Nicholas on Twitter, that they hope to have that. They're still confident they can secure that by the end of the year. I mean, maybe it is kind of imperative that they're putting manpower into negotiating these deals, getting people in rooms with people to get these over the line, getting the paperwork out of the way, getting everything done, and just launching. And then maybe once you've got all the top 20 in, then you really tighten everything else up. You'd like to think a company this big could do things simultaneously, but
Mm.
unfortunately there is that delay in the hiring process. But there's only so long that can be an excuse. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of issues, but am I enjoying the game? I'm still enjoying the game. And I think, as you said about the Premier League, I think everyone enjoys the game as it is. We all love it. We love how niche it goes into, or like how many niche clubs we all end up following and supporting, and it gives you football to watch throughout the week. I've actually kind of fallen out of love, and I don't even really play FPL now because I'm so in
I
depth
don't. Yeah.
in all the other leagues. But that said, I think people want the Premier League more for the attention it will bring to the platform, the legitimacy, the eyes, the users, the prices, the demand. They want it for that reason. I don't think it necessarily improves the gameplay.
No, I agree. I think everyone wants it almost like to sort of protect their investment a little bit. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, when the Premier League comes, this is all going to blow up and everything's going to go up, and investment's safe. But what will happen, or it has to happen, surely, is if we onboard like 1 million members after the Premier League comes on, that it's going to be, I think it's going to be really hard to win rewards. And that will become the new problem. Oh, it's not worth doing no more. You can't win anymore. Or,
Mm,
like it's when you got 1 million users, which they'll get there soon, right? It's probably, we're probably like inside the next year, there'll be 1 million, probably. A couple more
mm,
league launches, I'm sure. Um, and when you've got 1 million users, that's 10 times the amount of people that are competing for those prizes now. And it is tough. Like if you look at the scores to get a card now, as much as the rewards pools are massive by comparison to what we were at 7 months ago, you
mm,
have to score high. Like 7 months ago, when I'm looking for players for like my ETH grinding team, I'm looking for a 50 plus. Now you want a 60 plus average, really, if you want a card,
mm.
if you want cards. And when I'm looking at my scores in the game week to see what teams are looking good, like the mark in my head is like after 3 players played, I want to see a score of about 250. If I don't see a score of 250, I'm probably not going to win anything that week by the third. Then you've got 2 players to try and like get over another 100 points, which is obtainable. And then if you get over 100, if those players can like get a 70 or an 80, then you might actually win a tier 2 upwards, which is when it gets exciting, right? But then there are anomalies in that. If you look at Division 2, and I think this is potentially where like super rares do get a little bit more interesting, because if they do tweak the reward pools there and maybe add even potentially some star rares into like the D2 pool instead of like all supers that are like tier 2, tier 3. If you can win star rares in the D2 eventually, then those super rares, they'll go ballistic, because at the moment to win a card in D2, in some divisions you only need a score of like 370, and every player's got a 25% bonus. So that's like an average of about 55 per player. It's not even a lot of, it's not a big score you need to get a reward, but unfortunately the rewards aren't quite as rewarding as like scoring high in like D3. So it is at the moment. But yeah, I think there's still ways to win. But I do wonder, that will almost like, we all want all these new members to start playing, but I'm not sure how much we really do want them, because at the moment I think we got it good.
It's an interesting conversation, right? And let's go. I'm going to over guesstimate here, right? But let's say that the top 20 leagues, let's assume they all have 20 teams, which they don't. Some of them have 12. And let's say they all have 20 players in the squad, right? That's 8,000 players. Let's multiply that by the 100 rare cards, and you've got 800,000 rare cards. Okay? Let's divide that by 2, because let's say half of them. In fact, no, let's times that by, what was it? 40% are going to be, up to 40% are going to be rewards. Is that what they said?
Right.
So if we times that by 0.4, that leaves 320,000 rare rewards per season.
Yeah.
That's not stacking up to a million users. But the issue there now, where we're being maybe short-sighted here, is we're completely overlooking the fact that Limited exists, which has 10 times that supply, which is what, 3.2 million Limited card rewards, which means people could feasibly win. Then you add in ETH, and this is where I think it becomes really important. People are going to laugh. I've seen something on a Reddit this week about they hired some new guy who's head of graphics or head of content or head of something. And someone said, "Oh, hopefully they can get the banners going to keep Nellis happy now," because I keep bitching about like the wee stupid shop that no one else cares about, the achievements, the club shop. But like, I think this is where it gets important that like, right. I'm going to go off on a rant here that I do every other week.
Go on, John.
Let's picture this club shop, right? Not as some bullshit Web 2 FIFA Ultimate Team thing where you buy something but you're not really owning it, because we don't really own the banner or the badge. You can't export it to OpenSea. But let's say on their club shop, they sell NFTs that they collaborate with other artists to make around football. Do you know? So all of a sudden you have a Beeple thing of Cristiano Ronaldo doing a shit on Messi's head or something, right? And it's worth 200,000 of these coins, and it's a limited time thing, and whoever has the coins in that time period gets that Beeple thing. Do you know what I mean? Those sorts of crazy collaborations, and all the way down the NFT artist spectrum. I'm picking the big one, Beeple, all the way down. All these collaborations, that makes it engaging. That makes these NFTs something that people want collectively, and that makes people want these coins. So then you can give out bullshit coins as prizes further down the table. Do you know what I mean? Once the rewards run out, well, at least I've won some coins, and I might be able to buy another NFT. Okay, what about the fact, okay, I didn't win coins, but I won an XP boost. I can put 1,000 XP, 500 XP on one of my players. That'll help me with a reward next week. So like XP, the club shop, let's bring in outside all the rare, limited, super rare rewards. Let's bring in real life experiences. Once they have a full team of 10, 15, 20 people dedicated to delivering on the access that SoRare no doubt have, they can put up all sorts of memorabilia, all sorts of like match day trips, all sorts of stuff as prizes as well. So that adds more prizes into the pool. So I think it's important that they have prizes that aren't cards that are also desirable. Do you know? Like,
yeah, I like that.
And that's me just shooting the shit here with you right now. If they get a board, like 10 people around the table that are very clever and hashed it out for a day or two, like, the amount of ideas and cool things they could come up with and leverage. I have no
Yeah,
doubt
I like that.
there's definitely prizes, and it's about that jackpot element as well. Not everyone needs to win every week. Not everyone needs to win every month, every 2 months, but they want the sniff of the prize. They want the sniff of the chance of the jackpot
Yeah,
element. Like as long as that's there as well, I think it's all good. But yeah, there's a
I
wee
like
rant
the
for you,
idea of
Stish.
like almost like saving up some coins for, like, so, they must have X amount of like tickets from La Liga every season now. We saw with that special edition like ticket NFT
Mm,
week, things like that, like where you can burn a load of your commons for a La Liga ticket or something like that. Or like, I'll be interested to see what happens with commons, because in August, when they stop um, allowing commons in D4, I wonder if they'll even keep the. I guess they will have to keep the common league open, because it allows
mm.
people to get to grips with the game, and I think it's kind of important. But then maybe they'll stop giving. Maybe they don't stop giving rewards out, but I think a lot of people like ourselves and most of the people listening, who take like SoRare like a bit more seriously than a casual gamer, will just stop playing the common league once you can't, because the only reason anyone plays it now is to try and win like an Allison or something, right?
Goalkeeper,
That's like,
yeah, training
yeah,
keepers, or
yeah,
yeah.
and
I think
yeah, it's I think actually I think I finished in the top 100 in the common division recently. I
mm.
didn't notice it until a few weeks later. I was like, oh wow, I
Oh
nearly
well, yeah, that's
I
decent.
finished in the yeah, I've about 150,000 people. I think I came like 100 for 88th or something like that. It was
Yeah, which is
mad.
obscene,
Yeah,
and you
that's
still
like
didn't get
as
anything
good as
for
winning.
it.
No,
But
I might
here's the thing
like
as well, right? Here's a left field idea that's just came to my mind. Again, if you got a load of clever people around the table, they come up with a million of these. What if you could use your coins? Now, bear in mind, however many coins people have now, that's all from the collector side. They have this manager and player tab that are yet to come. Um, what if you could spend 2,000 coins, 5,000 coins, 10,000 coins, and it lets you do a duplicate entry or stick an extra entry into division 1 week? Like, it's just a bit of a
mm,
left field idea. But to incentivize people to collect, to incentivize people to do other things, what if I could go, all right, there's 5,000 coins. I've got loads of really solid players this week. I'm entering 2 teams and under 23 rare. Like, it's a bit left field. I don't think anyone would complain about that because it's a metric within the game that's accessible to everyone. It's not like, oh, well, that bastard's multi-account and entered 2 teams. It's like, no, anyone can do this. It's part of the game now. Like, that's just one idea I've come up with that mightn't ever be a good idea, but there's a million ideas and there's so many different ways they can reward people and incentivize people to care about things outside cards and ETH.
yeah. I really like the
I
idea
don't know.
you had about the XP boost, because I would save up coins for that. There's a few
Mm,
cards I'd love to like, yeah, in certain divisions where the XP really matters, especially in
yeah.
limited. So, if you've got limiteds with high XP, it's insane like how high you have to score in limited divisions. I'd definitely love to put some XP on some of those
Can
in
I
those
tell you a
limiteds.
really fun lineup I have this weekend?
Go on.
Just thinking of limiteds, thinking of XP. So I have a Kawasaki Frontale stack, okay? And they have, is it Guangzhou this weekend?
Oh
You might
yeah,
be more familiar
yeah,
with Asian football than me. I just had a
the
quick look at the
Chinese
table,
one.
and that team have scored no goals and they've conceded 21 so far in the league. Kawasaki, obviously a decent team. Now, I was the only risk there is obvious rotation. There's a few cup games and stuff, and this is a very weak team, so maybe they rotate. But I've put in like the keeper, Jung Sung Ryong, Mickey Yaman, Taniguchi as the defensive stack. They're probably not going to concede. Touch wood. Hopefully it happens. Whatever. Wakizaka. And I have a Damiao, but I was like, I won't play the full 5-man stack because loads of people are going to play the full 5-man stack.
Yeah.
Albeit Damiao just scored 2 goals, so maybe he's back in the team. The ultimate differential. Erling Haaland captain.
Oh, that
Isn't
old
that
chestnut.
sick?
That's amazing.
Erling Haaland up against Bochum, captain, ultimate differential. Just because the XP isn't like, as you say, XP of my Kawasaki players isn't enough. So I have to go like, I have to have a differential. I have to captain them, and I have to try and catch up to the frontal stackers,
Mm.
because I think they're going to dick that team.
And they
So
they lost, didn't they, to Ulsan as well this week?
yeah,
Like today actually.
3-2.
So they lost that game. So they do need I mean, there's not much like chance of them losing or drawing that game, but I do expect them to put a strong side out still. You know, they're
To
not.
bounce back.
They need to get like a big score out of that game, because if it does start
Mm.
coming down to goal difference and stuff like that towards the end of it, I haven't actually looked at the table, but when I saw that they lost to Ulsan today, I'm pretty certain that their next game.
That was in a cup though, wasn't it?
That was the ACL, right? The Champions League, which I
It
believe.
was in the yeah, it was.
Yeah. So yeah, the let's have a little look at the table now. So
They're top of the
Frontal.
table.
So they're I make them third actually. So they've got Ulsan above them at the moment. So
I'm a
go on.
tool.
So
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm looking at the wrong table because I'm an idiot, is basically what I'm telling you.
you're looking at the J League table, right?
Yeah, yeah. Now
So
I'm
yeah,
back in looking at the right table. They need to win this.
they need to win, and they need Ulsan to like drop points against Johor.
Oh my
So they are.
goodness. I didn't even realize how likely they are to dick this team. This is even better for
Oh
me.
yeah, this is a big. Guangzhou will be lucky to have a shot on target, let alone a goal.
They should go
Um,
and absolutely dick them. Lots of final third passes for defenders.
yep, yeah,
Maybe I
I'd
should just play
expect a big
Damiao.
score. I mean, even if he gets on for 10 minutes, he's got a good shout of a goal. So,
Oh,
um, yeah,
but then
if
it's
you've got
Erling
any players
Haaland.
in, I mean, yeah, Kawasaki is definitely like that's got to be the strongest fixture in the game week from what I can
Yeah,
see. I haven't had a proper look at everything yet. I'm having a look at like all the games that I'm following. I think
it is definitely the standout. It has to be.
that
In terms
yeah,
of the
that one.
situation, I don't think any other team across the whole competition has scored no goals and conceded 23 goals in 5 games. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, that says it
yeah.
all. So basically, I need to stack Frontale. My dilemma then is like, do you need the differential of Haaland? Because I think I do. Because if I put Damiao in, who could well go and score a ton, like you're in a position then where you've just got the Frontal stack, and this is why I brought this up because of XP. I don't have the XP on the players that I need.
Mm.
Um, and someone with new season cards or someone with just stronger cards in general who've leveled them up earlier last season. I'm not catching them with the same stack. So I don't know. Back
I
to
was
the
having a
point
little
we were
look.
talking
Yeah,
about, XP is important.
definitely, especially in limiteds.
Yeah.
Especially, I think that was one thing that another thing I did like about the specialist underdog league is the no captain, no XP. Like it is a very pure form of SoRare that
Mm,
everyone's on a kind of level playing field, and it's more about scouting the fixtures, seeing who's available on the market, who's like who's got a bad L15. And
yeah.
I think I've been spending this week. I had a little look because I was looking at the underdog league specifically. I just wondered, like, I had some time yesterday to just like do a bit of scouting and see who is out there with good fixtures, who's got their L15 of 45, but maybe the L5 is good. So
Mm.
yeah, there's some interesting options out there. I picked up a Keaton Parks myself.
Oh, yeah.
Keaton Parks plays for NYC, midfielder, under 23. He's got an L5 of 58 and an L15, which is over 50 as well. But his an L40, which is over 50. Sorry, his L15 though is bang on 45, so he's like
Oh,
eligible. And NYC are on fire right now, so I was like, he might be a really good one for the underdog league. I had a goalkeeper that was eligible, and I had a couple of good cards as well, like Dante Vanzia is eligible. He's just come back from a ban playing for Union in Belgium. So I'm like, I've got a good forward, I've got an eligible goalkeeper. Who can I
yeah.
pick up as like a couple of cheap ones? And I saw him. He wasn't super cheap. I think I paid 0.012 or something like that for
Yeah.
him. But that gives me what looks like a strong entry for the underdog. And there's some decent prizes in those divisions. Um,
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
really targeted it. This will be the first week where I've looked at it and gone,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
And
have
went and
a
bought
little
someone
go at
for it.
that.
Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna have a go at
I
that one.
have, I've a 45 average players. Kevin Fickenster, who's just a shite keeper who always concedes,
Goalkeeper.
but he's the goalkeeper. That's all that matters. Brizuela, who's over at Sarsfield. Then Camavinga, I think he'll play because of the Champions League. I think he'll get game time.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. I was looking
You know?
at the super rare one as well, because I've got a Origi super rare, and I'm wondering, do Liverpool rest their forwards on the weekend against Newcastle? I think it really depends on what the score is tonight, but you know,
You see, I think
they're still going for the Premier League, so I don't expect them to do much resting or rotating.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I just don't. Let me just check the Premiership table at the minute, but like, yeah, they're within 1 point of City with 5 games left. They have to win every game. They're 1 point behind. It's in their. They need to win every game. So like, I just think it's all guns blazing to the end. They probably want to blow away Villarreal tonight, hoping they can rest next week or something. But yeah, my underdog Super League, and then maybe we'll move on to another topic I have, is just because the reason I bring it up is at an interesting dilemma where Jonathan David can play, right?
Yeah.
Who's obviously in shit run of form, but he's always. I played him in the underdog league the first time around when I was in Spain with Quinny, and he like hit 2 goals or something, and I came fourth in that out of like 11,000 people. So I always kind of like him for that competition. But if I play Jonathan David, I can't field an under 23 super rare team because he's the forward that would go in there. So like, and I think it's a good enough team to like have him, keep him for. So it's JD, for Sharon, Kulusevski, Nico Williams, and Fabian De Kaiser in under 23 super rare. I think they all have their risks though. Nico Williams was rotated last week. Kulusevski's a nailed one. For Sharon has Bruges. De Kaiser always concedes. So I don't think it's as amazing. It's a nice sounding team. But if I play Jonathan David there, I can't play him here, and I have to play Josh Doig, who's a super rare I picked up last week. But the Underdog Super League for me then is Schubert, Doig, Melvin Bard, Ezekiel Palacios, and Wesley, which stranger things have happened. It's the underdog. All you need is 2 players to bang out of them, and you're probably in the hunt because everyone's using shitters. It's not just you.
Yeah, I'm going to have a look at what I've currently got. I always tweak like Wednesday, Thursday, but my underdog Super League looks like this at the moment. I've got Carlos Acevedo in goal. You know, they're having a pretty bad season so far, Santos. I've got Odilon Kosunu, who's currently playing for Leverkusen, but they've been using him as a right back. He's a centre back. Sadly, he's not picking the scores up. Thomas van den Belt, who's a pretty good player, but he's got a game against Ajax, but he is a defensive mid, so that might not actually be the worst thing. He might have a busy game. Gabriel Florentine, he's been kind of rotated a bit this season, but when he's put up some like 50 plus scores the last couple of games. And at the moment, I've got Divock Origi in there, but I'll probably swap him out for like Facundo Coladio, who plays at Tigra. I might use him just because I don't think Origi is likely to start unless Liverpool have a really close game today. And or they lose. If they lose to Villarreal or something like that, I don't know.
Yeah, it's such a tough one.
Like we just said, that Liverpool are not going to rotate that much. You're kind of hoping Origi gets on and scores a goal like he did last week. But I mean, I might swap him. I've got a couple of other forward options. I've got Chukovin at Dynamo. I think he might.
Oh, lovely.
He might. Yeah. So I've got Chukovin or Coladio. Coladio is occasionally starts, but he misses a lot of big chances. Whereas Chukovin rarely starts, but does often score off the bench. So they've got a pretty easy fixture against Ural on the weekend as well. So maybe I go Chukovin there. I might do that now, actually.
There's like, I actually love the dilemmas that the underdogs and specialists throw in. There just is that little bit more to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
But look, in terms of time, we'll move on. The new MLS cards come out today. Badges and shirts and all sorts. Things are colourful. Big tweet from the MLS themselves. Yeah, I think this has already been talked about to death. It's just happened, I suppose, is all Leeds really said here. Like, are you excited for them cards? Are you excited for the jerseys?
I like the fact that it's easier for me to see what teams they play for, because sometimes I have if you win an MLS player, it's like I don't know who that is, what team that is.
Yeah.
But when you see the shirt, it's like, oh, that's Charlotte or that's Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like, and they just look
I
nicer. It looks nicer in your gallery. I'm not a
yeah,
massive. I don't
100%.
care that much, but I care a bit.
Yeah. No, this is what I was saying, I think last week. Or maybe I was saying it on a pod or a YouTube video. I can't remember. But just it's that recognition of the teams and starting to build a picture in your head of who they might be or who they might play for. Working out like what teams are dominant based on jersey colors, and then you can kind of work out if a player's solid on. It sounds like such a small, stupid thing I'm on about, but it's actually huge. Like, because I know when I see a guy in a frontal shirt, it's like,
Yeah,
okay, well, he's in a dominant team. Okay.
yeah,
Do you know? And it'd be nice to start to build that picture around the MLS outside the big head cards. But yeah, look, it's finally here. Hopefully it brings a few Americans in. Who knows?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
exciting. But I don't really have anything to say on it unless you do.
No, I think that's it. Like,
Oh,
they look
I do
nice,
have something
right?
to say on it. Something small
Go
on it
on.
because I keep getting asked. It's all people seem to be asking me about at the end of the season, and I've mentioned it 3 podcasts in a row. The percentages have been lost, so people are trying to ditch their old cards and get the new cards.
Oh, that is,
It's
yeah,
such a
that's true.
I think it can be the stupidest thing in the world, right? Don't get me wrong. There's times where it's absolutely okay or whatever. If it's a card that you bought for 1 week, or if you bought it for one, I don't know. Like, there's cards that people are trying to get rid of that might actually only have 1% XP or something. And then it's like, okay, well, you're going to gain 4%. But people, just because they're old cards, even if they've like 4%, they'll be trying to ditch
Yeah,
them just
I
because they
think
know everyone's trying to get rid of the old cards. Oh, it's like, no, keep the 4% one, give it 2 weeks and you'll catch up.
it amazes me how many cards you see on the market with 0%. I'm like, that card's been active for a year. Have you not been putting it in training or any lineups? Like,
Do you know?
you should at least
Yeah.
have 2% on it or something. Like, it's
I just
mad.
look at the card. Whenever I see 0% on a card that's like more than a year old, I'm like, you whore. Do you know? You have seen so many galleries, you dirty bitch. Do you know? Like, that
Yeah,
card has been rode to death. Like,
loan fodder.
yeah. Look at you, you skank. Do you know? Going around
It's
all the galleries.
been passed around people's family members for a few months.
Yeah. The dirty dog.
Rinsed.
Yeah, they're family members. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, there is something quite nice and something quite I don't know. Maybe I get a bit crude with this. I don't know. There's something very pure about a card that's only ever been bought by one person or who you've owned from the start, isn't there? Um,
I sold my Lukaku this week, which I've had for ages, and like it is hard letting go of the ones that like your early big purchases. Like I've still got my Tony Cruz.
yeah.
He's almost back to the price I paid for him. I bought him for like 1.2 ETH, which at the time was about 500 quid. But then he went up to like 3.5, and I was like, no, not selling it. Now he's back down to like 1.3, and I
Mm,
think it's just it's the end of season dip. So I'm not selling him, but he's obviously getting a bit older as well. But I feel like Cruz is one of them players that might get a little MLS move and become like
yeah.
an insane scorer there for a couple of
I
seasons.
I didn't realize like how similar SoRare cards were to like finding your life partner, your lifelong companion. You know, you want to pick them up at auction early. You don't want them to have been passed about a bit. You know, you want to nab them early. You know, get that XP going, build a relationship.
Let's,
Unless you're, yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
I, let's definitely not get. We don't want to get into any under 23 scouting kind of like situations
hey,
here, and
get out of this, you dirty dog. Fucking hell.
get
Yeah.
cancelled. We'll get you cancelled.
You're getting me cancelled. Get yourself cancelled. You have a podcast now. Great segue. You've your own
Yes.
podcast where you can get yourself cancelled on. You're doing it with Tony Watt and Quinny.
Yeah, Quinny hit me up a few weeks ago, and he was like, "I want to do this. I've got an idea for a podcast. I've been speaking to Tony Watt about doing it. Would you be up for it?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, I actually like. I tried to get. I had the idea of doing one of probably about 6 months back. Did like a pilot with a couple of my friends who are on SoRare. I just think that our times just didn't work. Whereas like me, Tony, and Quinny
Mm,
have similar availability in the week. We could jump on when Tony's not busy with football training. So yeah, we just decided to try and keep it short and snappy, bit more focused on like the game week ahead as opposed to like the overall
yeah,
kind of, like
landscape.
yeah, like I like your podcast is great because I get to hear about the managers' sort of backgrounds and their feelings on the current sort of things that are happening in SoRare. And it's like there are a lot of podcasts out there now, so it was just
Yeah,
like
you'd be
trying to do
different.
something try and do something a bit different. But I think having Tony on there is great because you get that sort of pro footballer side of things as well. It's
Yeah.
nice to just say to him sometimes, "Oh, like, has this ever happened to you?" And like, I'm looking forward to talking to him about if it's going to affect his own game. Because
Yeah.
if I was a pro footballer, I'd be counting every pass and every touch in my head, thinking about my SoRare score.
Mhm.
So it'd be interesting to see if it affects his game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those where he'll come out and set a podcast, then it'll be like the Ajax lads buying keepers, he'll get
y-
cancelled. Do you know?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Be
I
careful.
saw that. Yeah,
But
that was
I
crazy.
was laughing because it was I listened to the first, not the pilot just did, but I listened to like episode 1. I only got
Hmm.
around to it today because I don't think it was on Apple for a bit, but now it's on Apple.
Yeah.
I found that I listened to it. It was great, and it was that dynamic because obviously I really enjoy your company. I like Quinny a lot, and Tony Watt
Mm,
is a professional footballer, and I like him as well. He's been on the podcast, so it's like
yeah.
a great panel. So I'd highly recommend anyone goes and finds it. Where can they find it? And do you want to plug it
So
a bit?
it's on Spotify, Apple, and I think like Google Play. It's called it's called End Product. Myself, Quinny, and Tony Watt. We try and do it weekly. I was on holiday last week, and we had some connection issues. I couldn't get through, so Tony has had a pretty busy weekend as well. So we were hoping to record. We normally record them like Thursday, so we hopefully will be able to get together tomorrow and do another episode.
Hmm.
We've kind of been talking on WhatsApp about things are going on. So before we get on, we kind of already know what it is we're going to cover, and
Yeah.
just trying to polish it up a little bit now. Like like have some rolling segments that continue week to week, and
Hmm.
maybe try and get some listeners involved in some way, shape, or form. But yeah,
Podcasts always grow over time, like in jokes and running segments and ideas,
exactly,
and
yeah.
that
Like the
grows.
lasagna,
You know.
the lasagna and coleslaw.
You know, you know yourself. I mean, if people love it that much, they can join my YouTube membership and they can get the emoji of the lasagna and coleslaw. Stish, you know yourself.
Yeah. Mate, look.
Um,
Do you know what? I'm not gonna like, let's have a little chat about lasagna and coleslaw though, because when I heard it, I was in my car and I did laugh, but I've definitely had it myself. I can't. It's not something I'd sit and order, but I'm 100% sure at some stage in my life I've had a bit of coleslaw next to my lasagna. So
mm.
I'm not gonna bash it too hard. It is quite a funny
Well, like
combination, but it
people
works.
order lasagna and down comes their side salad. And quite often in said side salad, depending on the establishment you're in, there'll be a bit of coleslaw there. Now, people don't really think about this as lasagna and coleslaw. They just think of it as lasagna and a side salad. But you're eating lasagna and coleslaw whether you like it or not. The perfect accompaniment. It adds a creaminess to it, adds a bit of crunch. It adds the hot and cold, kind of like when you have your apple crumble and your custard. You know, there's a lot to be said for it. I haven't had any photos in a while actually of people giving it a go, so maybe it was due a plug actually. I might
I
actually
think
maybe do a competition soon. Everyone who sends me a photo of it, it has to be authentic. I have to have like
in a
their name
restaurant,
written in the background. It can't be a YouTube or a Google screenshot. Maybe they can be in with a chance to win an NFT. Maybe Kevin Lasagna.
maybe a
That's a
Kevin
competition.
Lasagna NFT. There you go.
One-
Get a Kevin Lasagna NFT, and you're away, mate. But I think uh, this might be a nice little seg into a segment. Is when you go to America, I feel like you should sit some of the Americans down and take them to like an Italian restaurant and order a lasagna and coleslaw
Hmm.
and sit
I
and
might have
see
to
how
bring
the
my own little. I have to bring my own little like tub of coleslaw.
I really want to see on your YouTube channel you ordering lasagna and coleslaw in like an authentic Italian, New York Italian restaurant, and see if you don't get thrown out. I think that would be great content.
Okay,
You should
consider
do
it
that.
done. Consider
I
it done.
I look forward to seeing it already, and I think
And I'll
like
tell you what, in the camera bag beside me, there's going to be a little tub of coleslaw that I bought down the road just in case they say no, and I'll scrape it onto my plate.
yeah.
You know, get killed. Yeah, like some proper like New York, like Italian American mafia guy.
Yeah,
You know.
you get knocked off, mate.
But yeah, in terms of that, actually, so I've already mentioned a million times that I'm going to America, Orlando, then New York. Just to give a shout out to anyone listening, if you're from New York or somewhere that can go to New York of an evening, head there on Wednesday, the 4th of May, 6:30 p.m. 569 Hudson Street. It's in Manhattan. The details will be in the description of this podcast, or message me or find me on Twitter. Blah, blah, blah. Bit of a SoRare NFT, football, physical card lovery, loving, all the things I love. Just chatting shit, eating food, drinking, and having some fun. So there you go. That's an event happening for all y'all Americans. Yeah. Anything else on that, Stish?
No, just have a good trip, mate. That'll be
I
great.
can't wait.
I'm jealous, very jealous.
I can't wait to hug the Andes.
Yeah.
Thanks for all and I can't wait to ask every single one of them if they have a gun or not.
In New York, perhaps not. Maybe in Orlando, actually, you'll be all right.
Well, some of these guys come from like all over the country, so yeah, I can't wait to see if they've guns. Wonder if they'll let me shoot them. Should go to a shooting range.
Where are you going? You're going Orlando, New York, and
then up to New York. That's it.
Just Orlando, New York. I'm pretty sure Florida, you can have guns, but not. I don't think you won't see many guns in New York unless you're in the wrong part of town.
Oh, are they illegal there?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Really?
I think so. I think New York State. I might be wrong. There's probably they'll be listening. I think it's a slightly different. If you can have a gun in New York, you might need like some kind of
extra permit or something.
But
whereas if you're from down south, you get your gun and you go shooting ducks. Was that bad? Was it good?
I don't know. He's one of those.
Oh God. I keep trying to do American accents in this, almost just to piss off the people who have to edit it because they're American.
I know Emily's in the background shaking her head.
Yeah. But I don't talk. No, stop. Okay. I wanted to ask you about just the amount of issues and bugs that seem to be happening on SoRare. Are they getting on your goat? There was another thing in their support there yesterday where part of their invalid lineups fixed, which blah, blah, closing the game week was delayed, late rewards, we fixed it, blah, blah. It honestly sounds like they're just fighting fires. And you wonder then, like, obviously we don't have improvements. They're firefighting every day. Trying to deal with maybe the capacity or the amount of new users that are hitting their infrastructure, which obviously isn't fit for purpose. Like, I don't know. A lot of these, I think the thing with SoRare is like, unless it can be annoying if you sit down to set your lineups and then that's the time of the day you've allocated or have to do something like that, and then you have to go away because something's broken or something's a bug or something's not displaying. But thankfully, it's not like a game where, like, if your son whips up FIFA and all of a sudden FIFA Ultimate Team is just broken, you cannot play. Like, I feel like SoRare, because it's like there's nothing you really do on the site other than maybe trade. Pavel will be having a hernia. Like, it can be more passive, the amount of time you actually spend on the site itself, if that makes sense. Everyone's on SoRare data or following a game week as it happens. There's not a lot that goes on the site unless you're looking to bid or buy cards. And obviously that doesn't really get affected often because that would cost them money. But my point is just that these issues, while they might seem a little bit like silly and not necessarily that big a deal at the time, they're all the time. And it's kind of like it's starting to just erode away, and kind of the repetitiveness and the consistency of their inconsistency is starting to piss people off, myself included, a little bit. I just think it should be better.
Yeah, I think the only one that really affected me recently was that game week where the game week was because I had the Ulsan goalkeeper who'd kept a clean sheet, who went unscored. I think like in the end everyone got, was it a 20 or a 40, which made no sense. But I had Cecilia who played 120 minutes and scored a goal. Like, I'm pretty sure I watched the game and he would have been as close to 100, maybe 100. And then I also had Jeong Tae-wook, who played that game as well, 120 minutes. Apart from the goal they let in, he was pretty solid all game. So I already had two other players in that lineup who had put up big scores as well. And I'm absolutely certain that would have been potentially over 500, like, or close to a 500 would have been my biggest score, I think. So that was a bit annoying, but I didn't want to let it ruin my month. So I just had to take it on the chin. I luckily won some other rewards that week. Not great ones. That would have been a big one, but that was annoying. But I find I try to roll with the punches a little bit when things like that happen. I know like it's easy. You see a lot of people in the community get so upset about things like that. It will really like, rile them up, and they'll go on Twitter and do like a
Mm.
thread and it's like maybe I'm just too patient with SoRare. I don't know, but I try not to let it wind me up too much. But I do see it happening. But I guess like where maybe it's my background as a DJ and stuff like that as well. Is like you'll get to a gig and something won't be working, and if you get really stressed out about it, it makes it 10 times worse. But if you just stay
Mm.
there and let it calm, let's just try and figure out what's not plugged in, or why is this signal not going through the left deck, or why is the speaker not on, and be calm about it. 9 times out of 10, it will be fixed, or it won't actually be that much of a big deal, and then
Mm.
you can go about your business and have a good set still. Whereas if you spend all this time stressing, you got all these hundreds of thousands of people looking at you, and you're like screaming at someone, and it's not a good look, right? So,
Yeah.
and that you carry that with you through the whole set. It's like if you start a gig like that, it's ruined it. Not just for you,
Yeah.
but for the people at the front who are like really excited to see you, and then it looks like you're not having a good time. And it's like I think I kind of like saw myself doing that when I was younger. And as I've got older, I'm like, don't do that. Like, just chill. It's like, it's not a big deal. It'll be fine. People are
Mm.
coming here to have a good time. And like, I guess with the SoRare thing, it's like, it's kind of similar in that, like with that the week of Asia, that was really annoying. But, next week we got a new game week. Like,
Life goes on. Yeah.
yeah, you'll have a bad week that week, then you'll get really lucky in a few weeks later when you pull like an amazing tier one that should have been in the star pool or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. What goes around comes around. It's happening to everyone.
yeah,
Yeah. I think the whole concept or the whole thing about everything that we're talking about here is that like it's like how long is it okay for? Because
mm,
obviously it's okay to a point, but it's like when is that point? And I mean, there's no real hard point or line in the sand, but like when everyone was in a year and a half ago, it was very firmly early adopters, new company, startup, new technology. There's going to be issues, but look, it's fun. We're here for the ride. The
mm,
Gary V boom happens. People get excited. The 50 million funding, the 700 million or whatever comes in. People are starting to get a little bit more like, right, this is a huge company now. But obviously, there's going to be a delay implementing that money and getting the staff and getting everything in place and getting licensed. Da, da, da. We're 6-7 months on from that now, more 7-8 months, and it's like, no, yeah, you're about
yeah,
6 or 7 months, but like,
yeah,
at what point is it still acceptable? Because I mean, for me at the minute, it's like I understand why there's issues. I understand there's a lot going on, and I understand yous are hard stretched and pushed to get everything done, and you're hiring and blah 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 and whatever. But it's like, and these wee bugs and stuff are going to happen. But like, there comes a
yeah,
point, and I don't know when that point is. I don't know if it's a year away. I don't know if it's a month away. But like, there comes a point when it's just not acceptable anymore. you know.
yeah.
Um.
I mean, I am surprised at how many problems they're still having, but I guess it's impossible to know exactly what's going on in those buildings that they all work in. So
Yeah.
I hope. I mean, I think like with a lot of blockchain stuff as well, if they upgrade something, it can cause a halt on the chain and stuff like that. And I
Mm.
mean, I don't really know that much about how these things are developed, but I've been involved in other projects or been invested in things that, the chain goes down for like a day, and the devs are like scrambling to get, like all of the blockchain back up and running. So like a lot of these sort of like little bugs and little fixes feel quite minor compared to something like that.
Mm.
But I don't doubt, surely. I think they must have a big team, right, of developers there now that should be able to react quickly to little things like this. So I think things that maybe look small to us and seem small, maybe they're not. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
hard to
it's
understand.
impossible for us to really know. I mean, the thing is, I think there's a lot of people who do seem to know because they're from that kind of background, and even they're kind of being like, "This is bollocks." The vibe I
Yeah,
seem to get from
I remember
conversations I've had,
AJ on your
yeah,
podcast. I think he kind of like got into it quite deeply, and
mm,
he seems to understand it.
I know nothing about coding or anything, But what I've kind of been told or heard through the grapevine a couple of times now, I think the general vibe is this: it's that there was a platform built that wasn't fit for the current purpose and amount of people and things that are happening and everything that's happening. And it's a case of these devs or whoever they are come in and they're almost like, imagine someone built a shitty wee house and the structure was all shit. And then you had to come in and
Yeah.
build a skyscraper based off it. It's like you're better just demolishing the house and then starting again. But like with SoRare, you can't just like take the site offline for a month or
Yeah.
2 weeks and start again. So you have to kind of deal with kind of what was there and build on top. And do you know, I don't know if that's a good analogy or not.
No,
That's the vibe
it's
I
good
have in my head. So I think
because
they're
it is.
constantly like building this
It's a
skyscraper.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a 24-hour business, isn't it? It's like it never stops, and there are no breaks in the game weeks. Like when one league closes, another opens. It's like
hmm,
there is no stop. Even through the
yeah,
Christmas break, there's games playing somewhere, and the market's still ticking over, and like trades are being done. So it has
yeah,
to work all the time. So that must be difficult.
mm.
Yeah, I don't
So
think it's
look,
ever. In all the time I played it, I don't think it's ever been paused, has it? I don't ever remember a time that's like, "Hey, we're pausing the
offline for an
market
hour
for
type of
now."
thing.
Yeah, I've never
Mm.
seen that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I just wanted to shout it. Look, I'm not going to read the whole Professor Techers tweet. But basically, go and look up at prof_techers or find me on Twitter, and I've retweeted it. I've retweeted it now. You'll be able to find it and have a read. It's just about the SoRare rewards valuation system and why it's not fit for purpose and needs to be addressed. Got a bit of traction. Maybe we'll come back to it. We'll have a look at questions if we're sort of a bit of time left there. Maybe I'll read it, but otherwise, I'd recommend people go and read it. And other than that, Stish, you're going to jump onto some questions. You happy with that?
Yeah, let's go.
So we'll start with the top question from SoRare Epatabum. About the dip, yes, it was expected, happened before, it's a cycle, end of season, etc. But I've noticed an overall dip on all limited cards, even the ones from the leagues like the MLS, Brasileiro, etc., that have just started. Have we reached a saturation point in the limited market?
I think it's more down to like when there's more leagues, the excitement and the build up and the buzz of like the European leagues coming back. Do you remember like how that feels at the beginning of that season? The excitement of wondering if your player. I think at the moment is probably like the opposite of that, isn't it? This time of the year is probably like the least exciting time for SoRare because it's a time where people are trying to sell cards to get maybe pick up some Asia and America cards, and maybe people are just not as excited about those leagues that are that maybe the quality of football is not quite as high, so they don't want to follow it or they're not as interested.
Mm,
So I think that it's probably a bit of that. I hadn't noticed like an overall dip. I'll have to look that up myself, to be honest, um but yeah, I guess maybe there has been a little bit of a dip. I think like in general the crypto market as well, like pe- the news hasn't been great for like money in general, has it, for a little while? So with things like the price of petrol rising through the roof and cost of living everywhere going up, and I just think
yeah.
this isn't just a SoRare problem. I think this is a like anything that you do for fun is probably being affected by like the social economic situation outside of SoRare as well. So maybe it's just a bit of that bleeding into crypto and into the game as well.
Mm. Like looking at the offer volume history, just to give you an idea, on the 25th of April, which was a couple of days ago, it was the lowest ever day of offer volume since the 11th of September, um,
Wow,
which is pretty damning. But and I mean, if you look at the chart, it has been coming down sort of consistently since
I see
February.
it now. Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Yeah.
But like these dips come around, right? Not everyone cares about American football. Not everyone cares about Asian football. So a lot of people are probably just setting up shop or selling up because the summer's over and they want a bit of money out because they want to go on holiday or whatever, and they'll come back next year because they're short sighted that way. A lot of people will probably be quite stagnant, and then some people will pivot. The people who pivoted unintentionally probably pivoted a month or two ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago. What now you'll get is the panickers who are realizing Europe's done and they're going to try and pivot over. But in many ways, all those people FOMOing into it, it's like SoRare are releasing all this new supply
Mm,
into the limited markets, and all the other markets to be fair, but in limited in particular, I find with limited, like people are so much quicker to undercut each other because there's so many more and so many more people. So prices can fluctuate wildly. There's
yeah,
way more buyers, way more sellers. So whenever you're dipping, I feel like you find feel the effects of that harder at limited. And you'll also have a lot of the more kind of passive new user base there who probably are a bit more easily panicked. Whereas like the OGs and people who've been around for a while are more likely to be in the rare market, a more mature
yeah,
user, super rare even more so, and unique even more so. So I think limited, you have this sort of big melting pot of more liquidity, more upward pressure whenever it's booming, maybe more buyers, and downward pressure when we're in a dip. So you've got that pressing down. On top of that, you've probably got a lot of the newer, more less experienced users who are more likely to FOMO in and also FOMO out and shit themselves and do whatever else. That's me just
mm,
speculating. So I think like there's a reason why the limited market maybe feels it a bit harder. I think that makes
yeah,
sense what I've said, but I don't
yeah.
really
That
know.
no, I'd agree with that. I think that the limited market particularly is new as well. Like obviously we didn't have
Hmm.
the limited market that the bulk of the offers and of the auctions are limited now. So the maybe like the amount of offers and auctions are up, but people are just not. It's easy. It's easy to buy nearly any player you want now, right? You can just go and pick one up, and you don't have
Hmm.
to like manage managers. And I don't know. Maybe people are just a bit less engaged with like. I, Me personally, I just think this is a bad time to sell. Personally, I haven't sold many cards. I did sell Lukaku this week, but that was more because I felt this was also a time that I needed to try and buy. So rather than hold on to Lukaku, I wanted like a Champ Euro striker who is like, because look, I got point 0.9 for him, which is quite
Hmm.
low for Lukaku, but I could put that towards like a star rare striker that plays every week. So I'm looking at maybe
Yeah.
like Nabil Fekir, or like he's like point 0.9. I could get him for less than point 0.9, I think. Um, and I just looked at it as that was like, let's just do it now while like it's a good time to buy. So I think I just don't like listing cards at this time of year. I'd rather wait a couple of months until like the season's about to start again. Maybe like start listing up some of my like Champ Euro players that I don't need come, I don't know, like the end of July when the
Hmm.
season's about to start. Um, but yeah, I think there's probably a bit of that as well. That maybe more of the experienced heads are just not listing the cards that are going to fetch the big money just yet.
Another question from Dr. Mantis Toboggan. Whose podcast is better?
Ooh,
Do you
that's
know?
fighting talk. I don't want to get kicked off, mate.
That's all I'm saying is I can cut
You
any
know, I
part
will
of this
say
out.
though, I listen to so many podcasts. There are for what is essentially quite a small community. There is a lot of good
Hmm.
content out there. So rare.
There
I
is.
do enjoy everyone's podcasts and YouTube content. I just find it
This is where
passes
you're
the day.
supposed to say, but Jones is best.
Well, you got to
No,
put that lasagna and coleslaw in the mail to me, mate, and I'll
I'll
give
buy
you
you
give
one.
you an.
Someday I'll see you. Someday I'm going to come to London vlog, go to one
We
of your
we're
gigs and
gonna
buy you
do it.
lasagna and coleslaw.
I'll come over. I'll come. You're in Cork, right? Is it Cork?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I hear good things about Cork. Maybe
Cork's
we'll
good
do.
fun. And actually, do you know what's something that's happened recently? Don't know when it kicks in, but a couple of the like late bars here. So Ireland's really weird, particularly the north, because of like religion, where like people have to go to bed early and stuff. But
Mm,
the south is a bit better. But recently it still had the like everyone's out of the clubs at like 2 or 3 in the morning. But recently, I think they've given a few licenses out in Cork for places down to 6 or 7 in the morning,
how's
all
that
up the
going?
street at the same time. I don't know if it's happened yet. I know the first weekend it happens, it'll be hilarious.
Yeah.
But people will get used to trickling out over the course of the night, being able to get food and not queue forever, and being able to get a taxi and not walk home. So I think it is a good move. But like, that's maybe when you should come. It might be in place now, but I think it comes this summer.
Did you
Um,
ever see? Did you ever see that story on Twitter of the guy who brought a horse to the after party in
no.
Ireland somewhere? Oh, it's the best. Oh, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna tweet it to you. but there's this incredible thread on Twitter of a guy who told his mates that he went to an after party and there was a horse in the house, and everyone thought it was a lie. And then a DJ came and was like, "No, it's true. I was at the party." And then someone else came in and was like, "Yeah, I've got photos of it." So it's like this incredible thread of like this guy that literally he saw a horse like in a field on his way back to an after party and got on it and rode it to the after party.
Jesus Christ.
And he came in the front door on the horse.
I swear to God, like the stories I hear from like my uncles and my dad and everyone. My dad was maybe a little bit young. He's like one of 11. And like my uncle's going to Fla's. Fla in Ireland is like a kind of music and dancing
Festival,
and
right?
whatever festival. Yeah. Back in the day, like, but in like the 70s or 80s, these were carnage. And there was one they went to where they bought like they didn't buy, one of their lads had like rented a minibus, but they took all the seats out. Not all the seats, they took a load of the seats out. So that space for the way down to the flag, because it might have been like a 4-hour drive, everyone pinting in the back, probably the guy driving back in those days. And they brought a donkey. And I don't know how they brought a donkey. I don't know why they brought a donkey. I think it was one of those where they pulled over for a piss and there was a donkey. So they brought the donkey, which sounds incredibly bad and probably like a little bit dodgy from animal welfare when you think of it now. But yeah, carnage used to happen. Carnage used to happen.
Ireland is a spot for that, definitely. I've had some good times there.
One of I won't go into that story. That's for another day. A question here from Ian H. Rare goalkeeper prices have not to change much with the Common Keepers announcement. Do you expect them to over the summer? 100%. Everyone's going to FOMO shit themselves in August.
I agree, because it did a little bit on the day of the big announcement. Like I noticed a lot of people listing their cards, and some, if you know on the Twitter bot, it's like the SoRare auction bot or whatever. It was just like a sea of goalkeeper purchases like that day, and a lot of them are quite high. And then I saw on and then I've noticed as well, like there's been a little bit of a dip, but yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely no way that we're not going to see a big spike in rare goalkeeper prices. I'll be so surprised if some of them don't even like double. You know, a lot of the cheap the floor price of the cheapest goalies will definitely rise quite a bit, I think.
People, 100%. Like to hit those thresholds, what people will do is even they go and find those DMP goalkeepers like Pinscoglio that I have or whatever, and they'll just buy one of them to enable them to put their rares in and hope they can hit the 205 points and maybe 250 on a week. And I think it's like everything, you know, everyone knows what cycle's coming. We know the World Cup is coming, and we know players that are going to be dominant at the World Cup will be worth more. We also know when certain leagues begin and end and when the appropriate times to sell and buy normally are. But do we actually do it? 90% of us don't. And that's the same with these goalkeepers. 90% of people are sat still rinsing their common, not really thinking about it. Or just getting along, hoping they win one or something. And then all of a sudden, July will roll around, August will roll around, and they FOMO into it. And no one will be able to get one because everyone will need one. So even once they have it, they're not selling it. Once they get their guy, that's a lot of the rare market, the rare goalkeeper market that'll be a liquid. So yeah, I would be very surprised if they don't rise leading up to that.
I think it's almost a safe bet. Like if you wanted to like trade or flip, then rare goalkeepers are probably the best option.
Yeah,
I think
100%. I'm going to come out the blocks and ask you a big question, Stish. Who wins the World Cup? We have a question here from who's going to be in the final and who's going to win it. That's from George. So who is going to be in the World Cup final and who's going to win it?
England.
To look it up. Well, geez, of course you'd say that. I'm going to say.
I genuinely think we're gonna do it. You know, I have to say
a French-Brazil final, and France are going to win it.
I'm going to have a look at the draw and see like how much of it we can see right now. But
yeah, I don't actually know about the tournament tree and who'll actually reach the final, or like if that's even a possibility. But like, France or Brazil wins it.
England. I do fancy England to like get very far. I think if we get,
it's coming home. It's coming home. That whole bit. Will you be giving it that one? Will you?
Oh, once it. Did you hear that? There was like a phone call coming through in my ears.
I didn't hear it. No.
Okay, so
are you okay?
But yeah, I'm good. Let me just tell this person.
That was just the call to support your national team. That was me going Balubas. I've never sang that in my
Oh, mate,
life.
just a sec. Sorry. Um,
Oh, take your time. I'm from the
so
type of place where we all say here that we support like two teams, Ireland and anyone playing England. That's kind of like how Irish people view England. So, but I find it hard because I kind of like a lot of the players. I have a bit of a soft spot for them, and obviously I've got Jude Bellingham now, so I'll be hoping he balls out. I like a
yeah,
lot of the players. Trent, I hope Trent plays. Very competitive
yeah,
position for England, but
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. But yeah, actually genuinely fancy us to do really well. I think like France are strong. Spain, I think Spain are due like a good run in the tournament. They've been reasonably
mm,
quiet since they won it a few years back. So yeah, I mean, excited to see how some of the like like the American team. I wonder how they're going to get on and
mm,
stuff like that. But I can't look past England, and that's I would never ever. I can't believe I'm saying this, like, but I do. I seriously think we got a chance of winning the World Cup, like, and I think even like the Euros, the way that we came through that, we had a bit of luck along the way, but once we got to the final, there was genuine belief that we could beat Italy.
mm,
I think on the night we probably should have beat them. We didn't have a great game. We allowed them to play too much in the second half. But a lot of those players take that into the World Cup, and there's not many players or teams in the World Cup who've got players that have now had that experience. With Italy not making it into the World Cup,
mm.
um, I think beyond like your classic sort of, like the mainstays of the World Cup that always do well, I do think like this is a chance for England,
Yeah.
and
I
yeah,
don't think you could ever argue against England having a chance. England always have a chance. They just never take it. So maybe an England France final, France to dick you 2-0 or 2-1, maybe 1-0 or an extra time defeat just to stab you
I
a little bit
yeah,
deeper.
I wouldn't like to play France in the final. I think there's be a lot of eyes on what Belgium do as well. But
Mm,
Belgium are like such a good team that just like classic underachievers at finals though.
yeah.
I just I don't. They're almost gonna have the same problem that England had when like in the sort of in that golden era of like Beckham, Scholes, Rooney. That team should have won something and didn't.
Yeah.
Um, and I just feel like that when I watch Belgium. It's like, oh, you guys are going to live what we lived through a few years ago.
Yeah. There's a question here from Stephen McGilligan. From experience, can you describe some of the key risks or differences between trading at different scarcities, liquidity at limited, etc.? You said this was a good question, so I assume you have an
Yeah,
answer.
yeah, I think it is a good question, and I think the most liquid market is limited. If you want to like trade your way up, like a lot of my friends who want to get on SoRare, they're like, oh, it's too expensive to buy the players. I'm like, just trade, like make
Yeah.
make good purchases. Find a player that's like coming back from injury, pick up 4 or 5 copies of that player, and then sell them for double the money the week that they start playing again. Like, and that is
Yeah.
doable. With limiteds, it's not too expensive to pick up like 10 copies of a player who costs £3 or something like that. Because
Mm,
when he starts playing, he'll be £6. Like that jump from £3 to £6 is like nothing in SoRare terms. But if you got 10 of them, that's like £30 to £60, like in
yeah.
ETH that you can put towards a rare card. So I would definitely say that if I'm looking to do a quick flip, I look at limiteds first. If I'm looking to like, if it's like a long-term hold, I think res are like safe because you need them in more divisions and they just
Yeah.
feel like a bit more premium. Obviously, super res, if you've got like the tier 1, tier zeros, then great. If you haven't, the super rares aren't quite as maybe as useful as like a decent rare is. So I'd say
Yeah.
yeah, like for a short term flips, limiteds all the way. For long term holds, I'd go with rares, and then like if you can pick up a super rare of like a youngster that turns out to be good, and if you've got the patience to just sit on that player, I've definitely got a few cards like that I'm just hoping will come good and become like really good SO5
It's
scorers, super
literally
rares.
all my super rares are literally all that.
Yeah, I mean, my friend Dan's got the Musiala super rare, and
Oh
we're just
wow.
like, oh, when he starts playing, it's going to be like one of the best cards on the platform when he's like
Mm.
a guaranteed starter every week because he comes off the bench and he can get a 60. Like
76 and 65 in his last 2 games.
yeah, and I think the last game he came off the bench, but the game before, I think he started a fair few games this season towards the end of the season. I think, like with
Mm.
injuries coming towards the end of the season, and I think if Bayern do move on a few players in the summer, I think Musiala will be amongst it a lot more next season. So he's had that super rare card for 2 seasons now, and he's just like you can't quite use it the way that you want to just yet because he's still going to have that under 23 utility, but if you're targeting the under 23, you need your super rares to start and play.
Mm.
But he's a great example of someone that if you picked up that super rare when he was a relative unknown, and now everyone's kind of waiting for him to
Yeah.
flower, become like
Well,
this
that's what
great player.
I love super rares for that. It's about buying players who could become players that you'll never be able to obtain. Do you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
current crop of super rares you can't possibly obtain. In placing your bets in a sense on guys who you believe that could become useful.
yeah,
It's something I've always sort of preached, letting them grow into your team. I say it all the time, and it's what happens to some of my guys, and hopefully it
yeah.
keeps happening. But we'll move on to another quick question. Maybe bang one or two of these out because there's actually lots of them there. I didn't realize I would have come onto them earlier. I thought we'd less than this. Inspired by a post that Mark O'Sullivan read on SoRare, are new season cards released too slow? He'd read in the post that already 25% of this year's MLS games have been played. So basically, about
Mm,
these cards, they all seem to be coming late, or like they never come, or they come after 2 or 3 months of a season. There's like this
yeah. I,
lag.
I think it's like most of the clubs probably don't submit their full rosters to like SoRare until the transfer windows are closed. And MLS's transfer window, they got like it's not closed or it reopens in May. I was reading. They've got like there's another like transfer deadline on like the 6th of May or something like that for
They
MLS.
probably,
So it might be just that they're waiting because they don't fully understand who's going to be in their squad just yet.
yeah.
So it might be partly to do with that, but yeah, that's something I've always wondered as well. Is like, um, you know, why
Yeah,
why is it always late? But surely it's just something like that. Maybe the teams
but
don't have.
it's hard because all the European seasons obviously start at the same time, and they can't drop hundreds of clubs worth of players all within the 2 month period, 3 month period leading up to and at the start of the season. So people are going to have to naturally be staggered throughout the year. With the MLS, though, you'd like to think that that would have been, that's really one big league for North America that you'd think they would kind of have planned ahead of time. I don't know. Maybe it took a while getting the license over the line, but just something that this made me think about is it would be a massively missed opportunity if they got the Premier League and they weren't minting in July, August. If they
Yeah.
got the Premier League and weren't minting until October, you'd be like, "What have you done here, lads?"
Oh, can you imagine like the outrage in the Discord if that happens?
I
I
could see it
think
happening. I could see it
I,
happening.
I think people will lose their mind if that happens, but you're right, it could very well happen. Especially like the Premier League transfer window closes a few weeks into the season, doesn't it? So
Mm,
it could easily be like September by the time we start seeing Premier League cards even if they announce it in like June, July.
yeah. I'm going to ask you a funny question now from Chris Quirk. If you had to choose between Quinny's gallery Quinny's gallery on SoRare or Tony Watt's real life football ability, what would you pick and why? So to give you an idea, Quinny's latest roster valuation is 150k, 50 ETH. So would you rather 50 ETH in the back pocket? Probably worth more because he has uniques and super rares in there that are probably undervalued. But would you rather
Mm.
that, or would you like to be given Tony Watt's football ability?
I've always said, right, growing up, I've been asked this about like music and football a lot, and I would take I'd give anything to like be a footballer. Like I'd love I bet it's a great thing to do with your time for I'd go with
Mm.
Tony's sporting ability. I'd love to know what it's like to be a
Actually, be
professional
able to do what you
footballer.
want with the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and not
Yeah.
get injured after 5 minutes like I always used
Yeah.
to. Fall
Yeah.
over, clutching my chest because I'm in pain. I actually got
Yeah.
to do I got the BBC once sent me to pre-season training with Millwall and filmed it, and, they put me through the bleep test, and I literally, like,
Oh man.
had a panic attack. It was horrendous. I
I'm
think they just
right.
got me down there and was just like, rather than, like, giving me some shooting drills to do, it was like, "No, you're gonna do fitness."
You're
Yeah,
gonna
it was
yeah.
they just had me running, and I'd, like, barely slept, hadn't eaten no breakfast, and I literally, like, it was hot, and I had the players laughing at me while I was on the floor, literally trying to throw up. It was
Mate,
embarrassing.
I I'm a big fat bastard, right? And I am working at the minute. Now, this is a shout out and a plea. Anyone listening who likes the podcast and has listened for a while, if you've any way or in to let me get contact or access to footballers, please let me know. But there's a one in the minute kind of talking about a few things. Maybe again, I really don't know if anything will happen, but a proposed piece of content we've kind of put to someone is that, like, because they're one of the fittest players, they're the fittest player, they cover the most ground in the league they play in, them to put me through a fitness test as like a thing, like between that kind of talk about it, me asking questions out of breath and stuff, and then a bit of an interview. That could be kind of funny, but like I will die. I will actually die. Like I am
I
COVID on a
nearly
bad
did, yeah.
knee killed me. I'm this the worst shape I've ever been in my life. But that sounds like
Oh,
torture,
man.
especially with all those fit bastards running around.
It was really
Um,
embarrassing, yeah, because I fancied
I'd
myself
say
as a
so.
player back then as well.
Yeah,
I
you think
didn't
I'll
even
go
really
here and
get
like
show them how it's done. Like, I was looking forward to, like, trying to put a penalty past the keeper or something, like, and I didn't even get that
yeah,
far. I was just,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
injured within minutes,
Benzema's
being sick.
penalty. Do you see
Oh,
that?
crazy. What a
Does what he
player. He's had
wants.
a great season.
Benzema.
Benzema,
Yeah.
yeah.
Does what he wants. Right, we're going to finish with the 137 game. Shout out to Sam Deering, Nutty, Bumcrack. That's actually a 3 instead of a B, but it's Bumcrack. And
It
a
is
few other
bum crack,
great
yeah.
questions there. So thanks everyone for the questions this week. Sorry we don't have the time. We're 137 game. Chris had a bit of a nightmare and only scored 80 points. Vanakin with an uncharacteristic 55. Adam Yan
Mm.
with a 25. Who are your two players for the upcoming game week, which is game week 266?
Let's have a quick look. I'm gonna remind myself who I've got in my lineups and just pick a couple out. Let's have a look. I think I was gonna say Veerman just because he's like a
Oh, yeah.
a good pick. I do wonder if he's gonna play or not, but I do fancy him to play this weekend. So I'm gonna go with Veerman, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna go with Deviv,
Veerman and
Igor
Daviv.
Deviv. Yeah,
I hear you love him.
I I've got his super and his rare. Deviv, he's a great player.
Daviv. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually
And
had a rare of
Veerman,
his a long time ago.
I've got Veerman super as well. That's like possibly my best card. Probably
Yeah,
is the
I think
best
it is.
card I've got.
How much would it actually cost for me to get him off you, like trade wise or card
I've had
wise?
some big offers. I think that like there's I think the last one sold for 4, but I feel like he's got to be like a maybe a 6 ETH, 7
Yeah,
ETH, like something silly.
he's a
He's got
Koku
another
next
year.
season. Like,
He's got another year of the U23. He's playing for PSV. He looks settled there already. It looks like he scores big and he's in and out of the side, but he gets so many decisives. It's like and his all around is
he,
great. He's going to bang a lot
he's
of hundreds next season.
yeah, he's huge. He is very much, I think, the Koku of next season. If Koku gets the
Mm,
move, Veerman
yeah.
stays. So like I'm actually in the middle of debating whether I want to try the old Koku for Veerman trade. I might have to
Ooh,
put something on top at the minute though, but I'm afraid that Koku stays because I talked to a
yeah,
Feyenoord fan and he reckons they'll cash in on. I could go and find the messages, but it was like the old Sinistera, Malacia, and they've another
yeah,
guy. But he said like they'll hang on to Koku if they don't get an offer at 20-25 mil. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did get one. So
yeah, yeah.
anyway,
It's going to be
Stish, it's
interesting.
been an absolute pleasure. I think our time's all about up, but people should check out your podcast and product, isn't it?
End
Um,
product, yep.
and product
If,
and go for it.
yeah, so if you search it on Spotify, anything like if you search for SoRare, you'll find it down there. End product, myself, Quinny, and Tony Watt. That should be out every week. Other than that, follow me on Twitter is probably like the best place. So there, or Instagram, I'm at Plastician on pretty much everything, which is spelt like plastic Ian. If you're struggling with my accent, but yeah, thanks for having me again, John. It's been a pleasure, mate. Always enjoy shooting it with you, talking about lasagna, all of that good stuff.
Fun. All that good stuff. Well, look, thanks a million for your time, and I'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks very much, John. Take care, mate.
Cheerio. Thank you so much for watching the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video before you go, and comment below and let us know what your favorite conversation point was or anything you have to say. We'll see you next week.